All right, we're live. We're in a circle. Trying something new today. Trying a circle. Because, sometimes you just gotta be a circle. All right. Not gonna be a long stream today. Just a little bit of time while the family is otherwise occupied. Kind of look through some things on Savvy. So last week on stream, actually off stream, but last week during the week, Savvy was accepted into the OPAM repository. So we now have an OAuth 2 client library in the OCaml ecosystem, but it's still fairly rudimentary. We want to sort of work on it a little bit more this week for sure. Well, probably for an innumerable number of weeks in the future as well. But we need to work on Savvy. I want to get the OIDC implementation so we have something of a, the circle is kind of constrictive. I want to work on the OIDC implementation a little bit because I think that's going to be important as we go forward, because I think one of the key use cases for an OAuth client is that it's going to give us the ability to authenticate with like social providers. I'm thinking like GitHub, scoot this over. I'm thinking like GitHub, Google, Twitch, other authentication providers, right? I want to be able to have these custom providers so that someone who's building an OCaml app will be able to just drop these in. I do think that it would be worthwhile for us to build out a Dream middleware. So Dream being the OCaml web server called Dream by Antron. Love Dream. It's probably my favorite web server implementation I've ever worked with. So I'd like to build a middleware for that. I think an auth middleware for that could be really helpful. So just to kind of like keep things moving, I'm thinking that we'll probably just use our GitHub issues as sort of an opportunity to just kind of stash things and be able to kind of track what we want. So I already got custom auth set up for Google, Twitch, and GitHub. Those are the expected ones. Oh, right. All right, let's bring up an authenticated. So we'll go to issues, create a new issue. Let's see, let's build a Dream compatible middleware. Would like to be able to use Savvy in a Dream server easily. Could be good to just could be good to just have a standalone client create a middleware that can be used across the server. I don't know how this is going to look yet. So it's probably something like client is created using a storage medium. Yeah, interface. And then let's see, clients created using a storage interface. And I guess we just have a middleware property that it returns. Maybe middleware, maybe instead of client, maybe middleware instead of client is created using a storage interface. I don't really know what else we want to say here. trying to think. We need the storage medium because, like, for all the callback logic. Not sure how. I'll need to do some research to see how Dream handles, like, if we could set up a callback URL, or if maybe we could just have. Okay, so middleware, instead of client using storage interface, and then middleware has a callback handler built in that can be assigned to the callback route. And middleware has an. No, this can't be middleware. It's got to be client. So it needs to be client. Client is created using storage interface. Client has a callback handler built in. And client has an auth middleware that is nested under it to be assigned to routes. Okay. If I'm remembering Dream's setup, I think that's the best way. So we want that. Let's see. Well, we also want a generic OIDC. Create generic OIDC implementation. Let's see, OAuth 2. Wow, that's all caps. OAuth 2 is used mainly to interface with a server to retrieve access tokens. I mean, we love access tokens, like that's not a big deal. However, when authentication into an ecosystem is desired, we want to use OIDC so that we get a more nuanced flow that includes identifying details about the user for, purposes. We'll just create it like that. Alright, so we got a couple of those. Those list as enhancements. This one should also be labeled as an enhancement. And so should this one. GitHub, what is this? This number is cached? Really? At this point, if I refresh, that's going to update to 5, isn't it? Yep. Well, caching issues are everywhere, even on GitHub. All right, we got a couple more enhancements created. Don't think of what else we'd care to do this week. I don't know if we're going to get all of this done in a week either. Maybe that's fine. I don't think I want to work exclusively on Savvy this week on stream, just because, I don't know, I just want to also do other things, explore other projects. I kind of have this idea that one of the key uses for vibe coding could be creating utilities. Like when I worked as a application support engineer back in the early days of my career, that was like the big thing that we'd do. It'd be like we'd get some file that we need to ingest into the system that I worked on, and sometimes that file would ingest correctly, and sometimes that file would not. And it was all these like big companies who couldn't be bothered to fix things themselves, so they'd send us these just enormous data files like CSV. I think CSV was probably the most normal one, but there were some that just sent TXT files, and we would have to like figure out why it didn't go through the flow correctly to be ingested. And usually it came down to like line number 6752 was missing a comma or something. And so you'd end up like trying to figure out how to figure out which row it was that was missing the comma. And so you'd end up writing a shell script to like parse through it and everything like that. And you'd spend hours building these like kind of silly little like side scripts, I guess. And it'll be really good, I think, now to find situations like that where I need something really specific to happen, so then I vibe code just that sort of a solution. Like an example might be if I decided I wanted to do like task monitoring for on stream, maybe I could build like a task tracker. I don't know, maybe that's not super helpful though, because there's a lot of like task helpers out there that are, you know, already well built. But it could be interesting. Otherwise we have to use something like Asana, right? Monday is so much better. Wow, Monday's really, or ClickUp. Ooh, I could use ClickUp. I don't know, we gotta figure out what I'm gonna do there. Just to figure out how I'm gonna keep track of what stuff I plan to do on stream that week. Let's see. Let's look at a couple. What functionality do I need in this sort of a tool just to keep track of what we're gonna do on stream this week? Well, let's no, that was the wrong command. Text editor. Let's write down what we want for sure. We want a list of ideas of things to do. Those things need to have this is kind of a weird exercise to do on the stream, actually. Maybe we don't go down this route right now. Thinking like a location and amount of time to spend and like details about what I want to do, status, to do, working on, done. It'd be cool to kind of track where I've been, what I've done. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, this is probably better just suited to Asana or like Linear or something. Yeah, okay. Well, let's look at Savvy for a little bit. I can always investigate this stuff off stream, so we're in Savvy. I started working on what I want GitHub to look like. So I think we want to kind of just copy some of what's in the OAuth client ML. We probably want a flow type. Well, no, we don't need a flow type because it's always going to be GitHub. We probably want like some kind of a GitHub config. Let's just steal this for now. Pop back over here. Keep it all low caps. Alright, I don't remember what all GitHub said that we needed for our GitHub apps. Let's see, maybe I pull it up in my Authenticator one. I just gotta make sure there's no secrets or anything that show up on the screen. I don't want to get fired by George. He's pretty particular about me not showing secrets on stream. Developer settings, OAuth apps, GitHub apps. Oh, there's two different kind of apps. There's OAuth apps and there's GitHub apps. What's inside an OAuth app? Okay, an OAuth app is going to give me a client ID. It's going to give me a client secret. Maybe I should have two. We should have two different kinds of apps, right? So a GitHub app, and then we should also have a GitHub OAuth. So this authorization URL, we probably actually know that, right? It's probably always the same for GitHub, the authorization URL. OAuth apps, using OAuth app, authorizing, review, third-party privilege, building, authenticate. Yeah, let's look at that. So we'll get, oh, it's all in Ruby. That's cool. Where do I send this request? Providing a callback. Post it to GitHub. Any clients see your code except no. That's okay. So this is their token endpoint. Let's just copy that because we'll need that over here. It's the OAuth config. So this will be something like we may not need this value at all in the config because this may always be that. And let's see. Oh, here's our authorized endpoint right here. Authorization endpoints. Again, maybe unnecessary. Might always be that. Okay, so we got that. I feel like I remember looking this up last week that GitHub doesn't support Pixie at all. GitHub OAuth Pixie. Okay, just show me what I search for. Not supported at this time. Okay, so Pixie is off the table. I believe that means, and this is for OAuth apps in general. Yeah, authorizing OAuth apps. Okay. Oh, nice. It's actually got it right here. Okay, so that's that. And then this is the token endpoint in our OAuth 2 flow. Oh, man, reading documentation is kind of boring. All right. Use the access token access API. I don't care about that. The user can figure that out. Savvy doesn't need to know about that. All right. Why are you the way that you are? There we go. So what are we authorizing with a GitHub? Is this under using, building OAuth, creating, authenticate with GitHub app? Hello? Oh gosh, I forgot. This is that fact that they're like, they straight up don't give you any real information on these pages. Authenticate is an app. Okay, here we go. What is this URL? What is this app/installations? I don't even know what installations is. Is GitHub, are GitHub apps just for accessing Git repositories? What is? GitHub apps are tools that extend GitHub's functionality. Ah, okay. GitHub apps can do things on GitHub like open issues. Ah, okay. All right, so this is really specifically for interacting with GitHub. Maybe we actually don't care about GitHub apps right now. That might just be unnecessary. Maybe we come back to this. Let's just hide this one for now. To do. This is only for interacting with GitHub. That looks silly. There we go. Nope. Why did I? Let's not do that. There we go. Okay. So we're going to just focus on the GitHub OAuth config because that is going to let us use GitHub as an authentication service to kind of like interact with the to use GitHub to authorize users inside our own ecosystem. So like if you're building your own app and you want to use you want to use GitHub as the means for logging into your app and just validating that the user is a real user. Cool. So we know what the authorized endpoint is. We know what the access token endpoint is. We know that we need a client ID and client secret. I believe we're going to need a redirect URI, which is configured. Is there any? There's no real secrets on this page, right? I don't think so. We'll just stay right here. Okay. That way we can kind of look at this. So we'll have a. This is a real, actually it's not a real, it's a local application for bitconquest.dev. So we know we'll have a redirect URI. That's called a callback, right? The authorization callback URL is what GitHub calls it. Let's just document that, right? Because GitHub calls this authorization callback URL. Good. So that gets us that. Scopes. Are there scopes even in these apps? I can't remember if there's anything secret up here. I don't even see any scopes in this at all. You can list your application in GitHub Marketplace so other users can discover it. I struggle to see where that's beneficial. I might have to come back and look to see what kind of other apps are in the marketplace. That seems a little strange. Enable device flow. Ooh, there is a device flow in OAuth 2 that we have not implemented in Savvy yet. We'll have to mess with that later. Let's see. I don't think scope is necessary. I'm not sure. Let's just take it out for now. Don't know about scope. Might be a thing. Maybe not. Hard to tell. Then we got token auth method. Token auth method is like, are we using the authentication header with a basic authorization, which is a client and secret appended together with a colon and then base64 encoded? Or are we passing the client's ID and client secret in the post body over a secure connection? I don't know if this is important either. I don't actually know. There's no way to configure this in the apps that I can see. There are no optional features to try right now. Okay, cool. Advanced. The only advanced thing in the advanced tab is literally just delete this application. Neat. Okay, so I guess we probably just want to set this to be basic. I think this just needs to be basic. Probably, yeah. Token endpoint, we have that. Not sure about this one yet. We'll just leave a note to ourselves for later. Maybe this isn't configurable. I know in other places it's not configurable. When I integrated with, or when I was using my Beyond Identity tenant to validate my original OAuth 2 implementation, the Beyond Identity secure customer tenants actually respect both basic and body. It just depends on whichever one you want to use, and it'll check for both, which is super convenient. But I guess maybe not everyone does it that way. I think we're going to default to basic. Basic is the more secure version because it's a header, an HTTP header. So we'll just default to basic and assume that's going to be the direction we want to go. All right, so we've got this. Let's build so that it'll stop complaining. Oh, right, I left a bunch of stuff in main. Oh, unbound constructor, right, because we're in a totally new place. Token auth method. I think we just take that out. That doesn't need to be configurable. I think ultimately we're going to end up having just these three: client ID, client secret, and redirect URI. Oh, this comment about Pixie is not helpful. Let's just move this down here. And we'll take scope out because I don't think it's necessary. To do maybe, 2. be configured. All right. So we know it can't be configured. We don't think those are going to be configured because it looks like they're hard coded into the GitHub documents. So it's probably always going to be these, which means these won't be necessary. So the configuration for GitHub will just be these three things, which is great. I love that. I love that for the developers out there who are going to be using GitHub as their source of truth. All right. So then let's head back to main and take a look. So we've got module GitHub, which I've dropped in here, which we're going to comment out because that is not going to work yet. That's what it should look like someday. And then we added this GitHub route, which needs a GitHub config, which comes from GitHub, which I think we need to go to savvies.mli to update. I don't think we need get authorization URL. Well, we probably still need user initiated authentication. So we probably still need a get authorization URL, right? Because we probably still want, we're probably going to need to generate an authorization URL, pass that back to the developer, and the developer will put that in like a button. Like they'll use Tailwind or whatever they're using to create a little black button with a little white Octocat logo on it that says authenticate with GitHub. Actually, that reminds me, I had a great login screen where I used just GitHub, and it was 4-bit conquest, I think. My favorite program joke that I've built into something before. If I clicked login, yeah, log in however you want as long as it's with GitHub. You get it. You get it. GitHub is just such an easy way to do authentication and not have to worry about like configuring something. I feel like the main reason I don't usually use something like Auth0 is just because like I know eventually I'm gonna have to pay for it, assuming I ever get users, which hasn't happened yet, but maybe someday. And that's what keeps me away. All right. So we need to get a GitHub config. We need to expose that. We can expose that through Savvy. And come here. Actually, how do I do it over here? OAuth client 2. How do I expose that? OAuth 2 client. How do I access those? How do I access those config types? I actually don't remember. I thought I would have to access it through here. Is it just this? Gives me everything? Maybe. Actually, if that's the case, can I just access the module directly from here? Where did this module come from? Does it just come straight from here? Do we have it in this MLI and we just expose it as public? Oh, I guess we have these configs right here. Authorization code config is right there. Well, then why is this accessible here? Oh. Well, let's go take a peek at our GitHub. We should create an MLI. GitHub.mli. So if we go to OAuth, whoa. Spelling OAuth. Wow. Arrow keys. And then we just take that type, right? And that's just gonna, actually we don't need to take it from here. We take it from the other side, which actually we can just take it from the GitHub ML file. We just take this and just grab this and yoink. GitHub.mli and just paste that there. I think we're safe to take these out. Taking them out, making the executive decision. I'm the only one who's working on this project, so it's super executive. Let's see. Let's go back to github.mli. Oh, it's already there. GitHub.ml still has it, which is fine because we're going to take that and we're going to use it someplace else. So then we need to come back to main. Can I access it now? Actually, let's build. That way Dune knows about it. Okay, okay. Interesting, interesting. Unbound value, URI to Yoj's. Oh, right, yeah. Wow, come on, arrow keys. You are not helping me out today. So we need URI. Oh, this should be in a utility class, that's why. Let's move this out to our utilities class. Probably gonna have to break this utilities class up at some point, but you know, it's just so easy not to. Oh, I don't even have an MLI. Utilities is just always available. Okay, OAuth. Now I need to go find everywhere I used that. URI to JSON value. Let's see. Oh, someone is knocking. All right. My daughter wants the VR. So I'll have to go configure this, set that up for her here in a minute. I actually can't stream too much longer because it's like almost dinner time, right? What time is it? Yeah, it's almost dinner time. All right, so what did I just take out? I took out the URI to YoJSON. Where did I stick it though? Or where is it? Wait, why is this mad then? Unbound value URI to JSON. What are you talking about? Oh man, it must be let's just open utils here, right? Or do I use utils in here somewhere? Yeah, I can just open it, or I can expose it, right? Is that how this works? It's probably easier to just open utils though. That did not fix my problem. Ugh. Okay. This should show a bunch of errors. Great, awesome, love that for me. Alright, let's go back to utils. Maybe we just don't put it in there. How about we just copy it for now. Go back to OAuth. Okay, leave that there. And also put it in here. Just note this to ourselves. To do should be consolidated with OAuth 2 clients implementation and move to utils. Alright, so that's working now. Hello. build that. Whoa. Oh no, that's expected. All right, we're good here. We're good here. Does not match the interface. What do you mean it doesn't match? Oh, right. Come on, arrow keys. You're killing me here. All right, the interface doesn't have those 2 extra fields, so we take this out. And then we stick them here. And we'll just, we'll comment them out. I don't want to lose these values. Just for later, we're gonna need those later. Should be able to do and build now and get a slightly less confusing error. Yes, good. Okay, now we need to go back to main. Go clean that up real quick. Ah, the rush of everything coming together. Okay, still not liking GitHub. How do I expose this in my MLI file? Come on. This is where I struggle with OCaml, is remembering how the module system works. Alright. We gotta get this exposed. We know these are the 3 values that we need. We're calling it callback URL because that's what GitHub calls it. Right, that's what we said here. GitHub calls this authorization callback URL, so we're using callback URL. So let's put that here, that we don't forget that that's what we're calling it. And we'll also exchange it here. Go back to main. Okay, so we've got our GitHub config. I think we actually call this GitHub OAuth config, right? Oh, I didn't even call it that. Called it all sorts of things, but not that. Okay. Actually, it's weird that this doesn't have underscores, actually. Because doesn't the type have underscores here? Oh, man. Oh. Okay. Six of those. Go back to GitHub. And don't care about these. Replace that. And then this actually should stay the way it was. Hello. Auth config. Whoop, come on now. GitHub OAuth config. Gets that. Okay, unbound constructor. Oh, right, because this needs to be after it. Cool. Okay, so that gets us this. It gets us this config type. We still need to figure out how to get this over here. So we want to have a get authorization URL because I think, oh hey, it's the this guy again. Cool. Thanks. Bye. Not published chat. Okay. Cool. All right. This is where we're gonna have to call it for today. I gotta come back to this, but this is what we're working on tomorrow morning. So, unfortunately, I gotta call the stream short today. Just had a little bit of time. So, we have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow.